My name is Mason, I'm 32, and I have a gift for spotting treasures where others see trash. That gift turned my life upside down when I paid my brother Travis $100 for an old blanket his dog had been sleeping on. He laughed at me, called me a sucker, and pocketed the cash with a smirk. 6 months later, that same blanket sold at auction for $3.7 million. Now Travis wants it back, and our relationship may never be the same. Before I continue this story about how a dog's blanket made me a millionaire, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to hear how my brother's face looked when he realized what he'd given away. I grew up in Lexington, a small historic town just outside Boston. Our home wasn't fancy, but it was filled with stories. My parents weren't wealthy, but my dad was a high school history teacher who instilled in me a deep appreciation for the past. While other kids played video games, I tagged along with him to yard sales, flea markets, and estate auctions. By 12, I could spot the difference between genuine Victorian silverware and modern reproductions. Always look beyond what everyone else sees, my dad would say. History leaves fingerprints on everything it touches. You just need to know how to read them. That advice became my life's philosophy, even if it didn't immediately translate to financial success. After college, where I studied American history with a focus on material culture, I opened a modest antique shop in Cambridge. The rent was steep, and competition was fierce. For every successful find that brought decent profit, I had a dozen misses that barely covered costs. Meanwhile, my older brother Travis took a different path. 4 years my senior, he pursued business administration, landed a job at a prestigious financial firm in Boston, and climbed the corporate ladder with impressive speed. By 35, he had the corner office, the Tesla, and the beautiful colonial house in Winchester. He married Stephanie, a marketing executive, and they lived what appeared to be the perfect upper-middle-class life, complete with Baxter, their golden retriever. Travis and I maintained a close relationship despite our different lifestyles. Sunday dinners at our parents' house remained a tradition, and we never missed each other's birthdays. But behind Travis's supportive smile, I always detected a hint of pity. To him, my passion for old junk was a charming but impractical pursuit. "When are you going to get a real job?" he'd ask during our private conversations, half joking but never entirely. "Your little shop is cute, but there's no future in selling other people's trash." I'd laugh it off, but his words stung because my financial situation was becoming increasingly precarious. By the fall of 2023, I was 3 months behind on my shop's rent. The post-pandemic economy had been brutal for small businesses like mine, and people weren't spending on antiques when they were worried about grocery prices. My savings had dwindled to almost nothing, and I was seriously considering closing the shop and finding corporate employment. The week before Thanksgiving, I had to sell my car just to keep the lights on at the store. I took the bus to Travis's house for the holiday, feeling like a failure as I walked past his perfectly manicured lawn. The Colonial Revival home, built in 1920 but impeccably renovated, was a testament to his success. I tried not to let jealousy creep in as I rang the doorbell, a bottle of moderately priced wine in hand, the best I could afford. "Mason!" Travis greeted me with a warm hug. "Come in, everyone's already here." The house smelled amazing, roast turkey, cinnamon, and pine from the early Christmas decorations Stephanie always put up right after Halloween. Our parents were already seated in the living room, Mom chatting with Stephanie about holiday recipes while Dad nursed a scotch by the fireplace. Baxter, Travis's golden retriever, barely acknowledged my entrance, too comfortable in his spot in the corner of the room. "How's business?" Travis asked quietly as he took my coat, genuine concern in his voice. "It's been better," I admitted. "But I've got a few promising leads on some estate sales next month." He patted my shoulder. "You know, my firm is always looking for bright people. Your knowledge of history could be valuable in our client relations department." "I'll keep it in mind," I said, having no intention of doing so. Despite my struggles, I couldn't imagine sitting in a cubicle pushing papers. The thrill of the hunt, The discovery of overlooked treasures, that was what kept me going. Dinner was delicious but somewhat tense. Our parents, aware of my financial difficulties, kept steering the conversation toward stable career options. Travis, to his credit, tried changing the subject several times, but our mother was persistent. "There's no shame in admitting when a dream isn't working out," she said between bites of sweet potato casserole. "Your grandfather realized farming wasn't profitable and switched to accounting. Sometimes practicality has to win over passion." I nodded politely, but inside I was crumbling. Maybe they were right. Maybe my eye for valuable antiques wasn't as sharp as I thought. The last 3 promising finds I'd invested in had turned out to be worth far less than I'd paid. My reputation among dealers was suffering, and clients were dwindling. As the evening progressed and the conversation moved to other topics, I found myself distracted, staring at Baxter in the corner. The dog had shifted positions, revealing more of the blanket he'd been lying on. Something about it caught my attention, a pattern that seemed oddly familiar from my studies of early American textiles. While everyone was busy clearing the dinner table, I wandered over to where Baxter was sleeping. The dog raised his head lazily as I approached, then went back to snoozing when he recognized me. I knelt down, pretending to pet him while examining the blanket underneath. It was roughly 4 feet by 6 feet, with a distinctive geometric pattern in faded blues, reds, and natural wool colors. The weave was unusually tight and complex for a common blanket. What really caught my attention were the unique edge finishings and a small section of repair work that had been done with different thread that appeared much newer than the original material. My heart began racing. The pattern was reminiscent of textiles I'd studied in my American folk art courses, specifically those from the Revolutionary War era. The indigo dyeing technique looked authentic to the period, showing the characteristic uneven coloration that came from early dyeing processes. "What are you doing?" Travis's voice startled me. I stood up quickly. "This blanket Baxter's sleeping on, where did you get it?" Travis shrugged. "It was in that box of stuff from Grandma Eleanor's house. We cleared out her attic last spring, remember? Stephanie was going to throw it away, but Baxter claimed it. Our grandmother had passed away the previous year at 94. Her house in western Massachusetts had been in the family for generations, dating back to the late 1700s. You were going to throw this away?" I tried to keep my voice casual. "Yeah, it's old and smells musty. Stephanie only lets Baxter use it because he whines for it. I was planning to replace it with a new dog bed for Christmas." Travis looked at me curiously. "Why? Don't tell me you think that ratty thing is worth something." I tried to temper my excitement. "Actually, I'm interested in it. The pattern is unusual." "You and your old junk." Travis laughed. "Stephanie will be thrilled to get rid of it. She hates that thing." I reached for my wallet. "Would you sell it to me? I'll give you $100 for it." Travis's eyebrows shot up. "You're kidding, right? For Baxter's blanket?" By now, the rest of the family had noticed our conversation and gathered around. "What's Mason trying to buy?" my mother asked. "He wants to give me $100 for this disgusting old blanket," Travis explained, pointing at Baxter's bed. My father leaned in for a closer look. "Is it special, son?" "I'm not sure," I said cautiously. "But I think it might be older than we realize. The weaving technique is interesting." Travis laughed loudly. "Guys, Mason thinks he's found treasure again. Remember when he bought that rare vase at the Johnson Estate sale that turned out to be from Pier 1? Everyone chuckled, and I felt my face flush. That had been an embarrassing mistake, one that cost me nearly $1,000. "I just like the pattern," I said defensively. "I could use it in my apartment." "For $100? Stephanie joined in. "Our couch didn't even cost that much per cushion." Travis pulled out his phone. "I've got to document this. Mason paying $100 for a dog blanket is too good." He snapped photos as I counted out 5 $20 bills, a significant portion of the cash I had left to my name. But my instincts were screaming that this was important. You sure about this? Travis asked as he pocketed the money. Last chance to back out. Baxter might miss it, but we won't. I'm sure, I said, gently moving the sleepy dog and folding the blanket carefully. Well, thanks for the easiest $100 I've ever made. Travis laughed, slapping me on the back. Next time you want to throw money away, just give it directly to me. Cut out the middleman. Everyone was still chuckling as I wrapped the blanket in a clean garbage bag Stephanie provided. To contain the smell, I tried not to show how carefully I was handling it. As I waited for my Uber outside, having sold my car, remember, Travis came out to join me. Seriously, Mason, I'm worried about you, he said, his voice softer now that we were alone. These hunches of yours keep costing you money you don't have. Maybe it's time to consider a different path. I nodded, clutching the garbage bag with the blanket. Maybe you're right. But let me check this out first. Travis sighed. Just promise me you'll think about what Mom and Dad said. About stable options. I will, I promised as my ride pulled up. Travis waved as I left, shaking his head with a mixture of amusement and concern. Little did either of us know that the contents of that garbage bag would change both our lives forever. The excitement of my potential discovery kept me awake most of that night. I carefully spread the blanket on my living room floor, taking dozens of detailed photographs. I measured every dimension, examined every knot and weave, and made extensive notes about the patterns and techniques used. A preliminary online search yielded confusing results. The geometric patterns shared similarities with both Native American textiles and early American colonial weaving. The combination was unusual, suggesting either a unique historical piece or a well-made modern reproduction blending different styles. The next morning, still running on adrenaline, I called Diane Fletcher, a textile expert who occasionally authenticated pieces for my shop. She agreed to meet me that afternoon. Interesting, she murmured, examining the blanket with gloved hands in my shop's back room. The weaving technique is certainly old, and these natural dyes are consistent with 18th century methods. My heart leapt. So it could be Revolutionary War era? Diane frowned. I didn't say that. The pattern is unusual. It has elements of Navajo design but with distinctly European influences. I haven't seen this specific combination before. Is that good or bad? I asked. It's inconclusive, she said carefully. It could be a unique historical piece, or it could be an unusual reproduction. The repairs make dating difficult. I need to do fiber testing to be more definitive, but that's expensive. Given my financial situation, expensive testing wasn't an option. I thanked Diane for her time and promised to reach out if I decided to pursue further authentication. Over the next week, I became obsessed with researching the blanket. I visited every library in Boston with textile archives, comparing my photographs with historical examples. I found similarities but no exact matches. The more I researched, the more unusual the blanket seemed, which could either mean it was extraordinarily rare or simply a peculiar modern creation. Meanwhile, my financial situation grew more dire. The shop's electricity was shut off briefly until I could scrape together enough for a minimum payment. My landlord was threatening eviction, and suppliers were demanding payment for items I'd purchased on credit. Travis called regularly, each conversation inevitably turning to my precarious finances. Mason, this is getting ridiculous, he said during one particularly tense call. How are you going to pay your rent next month? I'm working on it, I insisted. I might have a valuable piece. The dog blanket? Travis laughed. You're still hung up on that? Man, I should have charged you $200. His laughter stung, but I couldn't blame him. From the outside, I looked like a desperate man clutching at straws. Even I was beginning to doubt my initial excitement. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I was seriously considering accepting Travis's job offer when I remembered Dr. Helen Bennett, a professor of American Studies at Harvard who specialized in early American textiles. We'd met at an auction years earlier, and she'd given me her card. After some searching, I found her contact information and sent an email with photos of the blanket. To my surprise, she responded within hours, asking to see the blanket in person as soon as possible. We arranged to meet the following day at her office. The Harvard campus was decorated for Christmas, a light dusting of snow making everything look like a holiday card. Dr. Bennett's office was cluttered with books, textile samples, and artifacts, exactly what you'd expect from a leading expert in her field. "Mr. Parker," she greeted me, her eyes immediately going to the carefully wrapped package in my arms. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention." With reverent care, she laid the blanket out on a large examination table, putting on cotton gloves before touching it. For nearly an hour, she examined every inch in silence, occasionally taking notes or photographs. I sat nervously, watching her expression for any hint of her thoughts. Finally, she looked up. "Where did you say you acquired this?" I explained about finding it at my brother's house, used as a dog bed. "And your grandmother's house in western Massachusetts, how long had it been in the family?" "The house has been in our family since it was built in 1795, I explained. "My grandmother was the 6th generation to live there." Dr. Bennett nodded thoughtfully. "I need to consult with some colleagues and conduct a few tests before I can give you a definitive opinion. Would you be willing to leave this with me for a few weeks?" My hesitation must have been obvious. "I understand your concern," she added. "I can provide you with a formal receipt, and I assure you it will be kept in our secure conservation facility." Despite my reservations about parting with what might be an extremely valuable item, I trusted her professional reputation. We completed the necessary paperwork, and I left campus with mixed emotions: hope that my instincts might be correct, fear that I'd end up disappointed again, and anxiety about returning to my financial problems without even the blanket to show for my struggles. The 3 weeks before Christmas were some of the most difficult of my life. I was forced to reduce my shop's hours to save on utilities, missing the crucial holiday shopping season. I took odd jobs helping other dealers with inventory and appraisals just to make ends meet. Travis's calls became more frequent and increasingly concerned. "Masson, Mom told me you asked to borrow money for rent," he said one evening. "This has gone too far. Why don't you come stay with us for a while? You can close the shop, get back on your feet." "I just need a little more time," I insisted. "I'm waiting on an expert opinion about something that could change everything." "Not that blanket again," Travis groaned. "Look, I shouldn't have laughed at you, but you need to face reality. No dog blanket is going to solve your problems. Please let me help you." His offer was tempting. Closing the shop would be admitting defeat, but at least I'd have a roof over my head while I figured out next steps. I promised to think about it over the weekend. Then, 3 days before Christmas, I received an email from Dr. Bennett that would change everything. "Mr. Parker, I've completed my initial assessment of your textile. Please call me at your earliest convenience. This is a matter of some significance." With trembling fingers, I dialed Dr. Bennett's number. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Parker, thank you for calling promptly. Are you able to come to my office today? There are some things about your textile that would be better discussed in person." Her tone gave nothing away, but the formal request to meet in person sent my heart racing. "Yes, I can be there in an hour." This time, Dr. Bennett wasn't alone. She introduced me to Dr. Marcus Whitfield, a specialist in Revolutionary War artifacts from the Smithsonian, and Regina Lopez, a textile conservationist. "Mr. Parker," Dr. Bennett began once we were all seated, "what you have brought us appears to be an extremely rare and historically significant textile." I held my breath as she continued. "Based on our analysis of the weaving technique, materials, and dyes, we believe this blanket dates to approximately 1780 to 1790. What makes it particularly exceptional is its provenance and maker." Dr. Whitfield took over. "We've identified distinctive characteristics that suggest this was created by Mary Two Rivers, a half-Navajo weaver who worked with George Washington's army during the Revolutionary War. Two Rivers was known for creating a unique fusion of Native American and European weaving techniques, producing textiles for high-ranking officers. Her work is extremely rare, Regina added. Only 3 other authenticated pieces exist, all in major museums. None of them are as large or well-preserved as yours. I sat in stunned silence as they explained the series of tests they'd conducted: radiocarbon dating of the fibers, spectroscopic analysis of the dyes, comparison with documented examples from the period. The preservation is remarkable, Dr. Bennett continued. The repairs are consistent with late 18th century techniques, likely done within a decade of its creation. The fact that it remained in your family home since that period explains its survival. It wasn't subjected to changing hands repeatedly or improper storage. What does this mean? I finally managed to ask. The 3 experts exchanged glances. Mr. Parker, Dr. Whitfield said carefully, artifacts of this significance and rarity are extremely valuable. While we can't provide a formal appraisal, similar items have commanded prices in the range of $1 to $2 million at auction. The room seemed to spin around me. $1 to $2 million. For a blanket my brother had been letting his dog sleep on. For a blanket I'd purchased for $100. There will be significant interest from major institutions, Regina explained. The Smithsonian, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Museum of Fine Arts here in Boston, all would consider this a crown jewel for their American textile collections. Dr. Bennett handed me a business card. This is Jonathan Pierce from Sotheby's. He specializes in American historical artifacts. If you're considering selling, he would be the person to contact. I've already spoken with him about your piece, with your permission, of course. I took the card automatically, still trying to process what I was hearing. Of course, you'll need to decide what you want to do, Dr. Bennett added. Some owners prefer to loan such pieces to museums while retaining ownership. Others choose to sell. Given the historical significance, there may also be tax advantages to consider with either option. The meeting continued for another hour as they explained the authentication documentation they had prepared and discussed options for proper conservation. They arranged for secure transportation of the blanket to a specialized storage facility until I decided on next steps. As I left the building, the cold December air helped clear my head. I pulled out my phone to call Travis, then hesitated. This news would change everything between us. I needed time to think, to plan how to handle this unexpected turn of fortune. Instead, I called Jonathan Pierce at Sotheby's. He answered immediately, his enthusiasm palpable even over the phone. Mr. Parker, I was hoping to hear from you. Dr. Bennett has shared preliminary photographs and her authentication report. This is truly an exceptional find. Would you be available to meet tomorrow to discuss potential auction arrangements? Within a week, the wheels were in motion. Sotheby's confirmed the blanket's authenticity and historical significance. They estimated an auction value of $1 to $2 million, scheduling a special American Historical Artifacts auction for late April, giving them time for proper marketing to attract the most serious collectors and institutions. Media attention began almost immediately. The story of a priceless Revolutionary War artifact being used as a dog bed captured public imagination. Local news interviewed me about the discovery, then national outlets picked up the story. Headlines proclaimed, $1 million dog blanket discovered in Boston suburb, and antique dealer's $100 purchase could fetch millions. I tried to keep Travis out of these stories, referring only to a family member who had unwittingly been using the historic textile as a pet bed. But Boston was a small community, and it wasn't long before people connected the dots. 3 days after the first news story broke, Travis called. I just had a reporter at my door asking about Grandma's blanket, he said, his voice strained. Mason, what the hell is going on? Is this for real? It's real, I confirmed. The blanket is being authenticated by Sotheby's. They're estimating between $1 and $2 million at auction. There was a long silence on the line. Travis? I'm here, he said quietly. I don't know what to say. That's life-changing money. It is, I agreed. I still can't believe it myself. Another pause. Congratulations, Mason. I guess your eye for old junk paid off after all. Something in his tone bothered me, but he quickly changed the subject, asking about the authentication process and upcoming auction. We ended the call cordially, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally shifted between us. As the weeks passed and auction preparations continued, I barely had time to worry about Travis. My life transformed with dizzying speed. Sotheby's arranged for me to attend exclusive events with potential buyers. Museums courted me, hoping I might consider a donation, with significant tax benefits, of course. Wealthy clients began contacting my previously struggling shop, eager for my suddenly valuable expertise. By March, I had secured a lease on a prestigious new gallery space in Beacon Hill, hired 2 assistants, and was fielding offers to write a book about my discovery. Financial advisors helped me prepare for the incoming windfall, setting up investment accounts and tax strategies. The blanket, now professionally conserved and mounted, was featured in a special pre-auction exhibition that drew record crowds. Advance bidding had already pushed the estimate to $2.5 million, with experts predicting it might go even higher during live bidding. I was living the dream I'd always believed possible, vindication for my passion and expertise. But Travis had become increasingly distant. Our weekly calls dwindled to brief text messages. He declined my invitation to the exhibition opening. When our parents expressed concern about the growing rift, he insisted everything was fine, just busy with work. I should have recognized the warning signs. Instead, I was too caught up in my newfound success to notice the storm brewing within my own family. April 23rd dawned clear and bright in New York City. I stood at my hotel window overlooking Central Park, adjusting the tie on my new bespoke suit. In just a few hours, my life would change forever as the Merry Two Rivers blanket, as it was now officially known, went up for auction at Sotheby's. My parents had flown in for the event, staying in the suite next door courtesy of Sotheby's. Travis had declined my invitation, citing an unmovable work commitment. I tried not to let his absence dampen my spirits. Ready for the big day? My father asked as we met in the hotel lobby. He looked uncomfortable in his rented tuxedo but beamed with pride. As ready as I'll ever be, I replied, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. A sleek black car provided by the auction house whisked us to their York Avenue headquarters. The building hummed with excitement as staff made final preparations. My blanket, I still thought of it as mine, though soon it would belong to someone else, was displayed in a special case in the main auction room, dramatically lit to highlight its intricate patterns. Jonathan Pierce greeted us at the entrance. Mason! The moment has arrived. We have representatives from every major museum in attendance, plus some very serious private collectors. The phone and online bidding registrations have broken records for an American textile. He guided us through the growing crowd, introducing us to museum directors, wealthy collectors, and other important figures in the art world. My head spun with names and titles as I shook hands and made small talk. And this is Eliza Montgomery, Director of American Collections at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Jonathan said, introducing me to a distinguished woman in her 60s. Mr. Parker, it's a pleasure to meet you, she said warmly. Your discovery has excited everyone in the textile conservation world. I do hope the piece ends up in a public collection where it can be properly preserved and studied. That would be my preference as well, I admitted. While the money would be life-changing, I had developed a deep appreciation for the historical significance of the blanket and hoped it would be accessible to scholars and the public. As the auction room filled, Jonathan directed us to reserve seats in the front row. My parents squeezed my hands as we sat down, their expressions a mixture of excitement and disbelief at finding ourselves in such surroundings. I wish Travis could see this, my mother whispered. He'd be so proud. I nodded, pushing away the hurt of my brother's absence. This was my moment, the culmination of years of dedication to my craft. I wouldn't let anything diminish it. The auctioneer took his position at the podium, and a hush fell over the room. After brief introductory remarks about the exceptional items in today's auction, he announced, Lot number 1, the Mary Two Rivers Revolutionary War Officer's Blanket, circa 1780. He outlined the blanket's historical significance and provenance, then announced the opening bid. We'll start the bidding at $1 million. A paddle immediately rose near the back. $1 million? The auctioneer confirmed. Do I hear 1,100,000? Another paddle. Then another. The bidding quickly escalated, jumping by hundreds of thousands. When it reached 2 million, the increments increased to $250,000. $2,250,000 from the gentleman in the third row. $2,500,000 from our bidder on the phone. My palms grew sweaty as the amounts continued to climb. The room had narrowed to just the auctioneer's voice and the rhythmic rise of paddles. 3 million. 3,000,005. 3,700,000. $3,700,000. The auctioneer called. Going once, going twice. His gavel fell with a decisive crack. Sold! For $3,700,000 to bidder number 42. The room erupted in applause. My parents embraced me, tears streaming down my mother's face. Jonathan rushed over to congratulate me, explaining that the buyer was a private collector who had already agreed to loan the blanket to the Smithsonian for a special exhibition. After auction fees, you'll clear just over $3 million, he said, shaking my hand vigorously. Congratulations, Mason. You've made history today. Reporters swarmed around us as we exited the auction house, cameras flashing and questions flying. I answered automatically, still in a daze from the reality of what had just happened. I, Mason Parker, was now a millionaire. The following weeks passed in a blur of paperwork, meetings with financial advisors, and media appearances. I finalized the lease on my new gallery space, hiring a team to handle renovations while I worked with designers on branding and marketing. The media loved my story, the struggling antique dealer who recognized the priceless artifact being used as a dog bed. I appeared on morning shows, was profiled in magazines, and even fielded offers for movie rights to my story. My expertise was suddenly in high demand, with wealthy clients seeking my services to evaluate their collections or hunt for valuable pieces on their behalf. My new gallery, Parker Antiquities, opened in June with a lavish party attended by Boston's elite. Located in a historic building on Beacon Hill, it featured museum-quality lighting, climate control, and security systems. No more struggling with rent or utilities. This space projected success and expertise from every angle. Travis didn't attend the opening. In fact, I hadn't seen him since before the auction, our communication limited to occasional text messages. Our parents tried to arrange family dinners, but either Travis or I always seemed to have a conflict. When I purchased a brownstone just blocks from my new gallery, I invited everyone for a housewarming dinner. My parents came. Travis sent a bottle of champagne with his regrets. He'll come around, my father assured me. He's just adjusting to the change in dynamics. It's not easy when your younger brother suddenly becomes wealthy. I nodded, but I suspected there was more to it than simple jealousy. Travis had never been petty or envious before. Something else was brewing beneath the surface. In late October, almost a year after I'd first spotted the blanket at Thanksgiving dinner, I hosted a special exhibition at my gallery featuring Revolutionary War-era artifacts. The event attracted collectors and museum curators from across the country, further cementing my reputation as a leading expert in early American artifacts. As the evening wound down and the last guests departed, I was surprised to see Travis standing in the doorway. "Impressive place," he said, looking around at the gallery. "Business seems good." "Travis! I didn't know you were coming." I moved to embrace him, but he remained stiff, accepting the hug without returning it. "I thought it was time we talked," he said. "In private." I nodded, locking the front door and leading him to my office in the back. The space reflected my new status: antique mahogany desk, leather chairs, and a small bar stocked with premium spirits. Drink? I offered. No thanks. Travis remained standing, hands thrust deep in his pockets. I've been doing a lot of thinking about Grandma's blanket. Something in his tone put me on edge. What about it? That blanket was a family heirloom, he said. It belonged to all of us, not just me. I frowned. You were using it as a dog bed. You were going to throw it away. I didn't know what it was. His voice rose slightly. None of us did. That doesn't change the fact that it came from our grandmother's house, our shared inheritance. Travis, you sold it to me. For $100. Your idea, not mine. Because I didn't know it was worth millions, he exploded. You did. Or at least you suspected. You took advantage of my ignorance. I stepped back, stunned by the accusation. That's not fair. I took a risk based on my expertise you've always belittled, by the way. I couldn't know for certain what it was worth. But you had a pretty good idea, he pressed. Good enough to spend $100 you couldn't afford at the time. You should have told me your suspicions. So you could what? Back out of the deal? I paid you what you asked? Travis ran a hand through his hair in frustration. A fair transaction requires informed consent from both parties. You withheld crucial information. Are you seriously giving me a business ethics lecture right now? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You laughed at me, Travis. You all laughed. You thought I was being foolish. That doesn't matter now, he said coldly. What matters is that you profited from a family heirloom without sharing that profit with the family. What exactly are you asking for, Travis? He straightened his shoulders. I've spoken with a lawyer. He believes I have a case for rescinding the sale due to your failure to disclose your expert knowledge about the item's potential value. My blood ran cold. You're suing me? Your own brother? I'm hoping it won't come to that, he said. I'm proposing a settlement, half the auction proceeds, to be divided among the family members who had a rightful claim to Grandma's estate. Half? I repeated incredulously. $3 million because you let your dog sleep on a blanket you were going to throw away? It's what's fair, he insisted. Without Grandma's blanket, without our family history, you'd have nothing. You owe us this, Mason. I stared at my brother, a stranger in familiar clothing. I need to think about this. And consult my own lawyer. Of course, Travis said, reaching into his jacket and producing an envelope. Here's the formal notice from my attorney. You have 30 days to respond before we file in court. He placed the envelope on my desk and turned to leave. Travis, I called after him. Is this really worth destroying our relationship? He paused at the door. That's up to you, isn't it? Family should come first, Mason. Before money. Before pride. After he left, I collapsed into my chair, the certified letter sitting on my desk like a live grenade. My phone buzzed with messages from my assistant about tomorrow's appointments, emails from clients inquiring about valuable pieces, invitations to exclusive events. I ignored them all, staring instead at a framed photograph on my wall, Travis and me as children, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning widely at the camera. I wondered if we would ever be those brothers again, or if the blanket that had made my fortune had permanently unraveled the fabric of our relationship. The legal threat from Travis sent my life into a tailspin. My attorney, Catherine Williams, reviewed the case thoroughly and delivered her assessment in her downtown Boston office a week later. Technically, he doesn't have a strong legal position, she explained, tapping her pen against Travis's demand letter. You purchased the item in good faith at a price the seller willingly accepted. Your professional knowledge doesn't legally obligate you to disclose your suspicions about potential value. So we can fight this? I asked. Catherine hesitated. We can, and we'd likely win. But I have to warn you, family lawsuits are rarely just about the legal merits. They're messy, public, and destructive. Even winning might feel like losing. Her words echoed in my mind as I left her office. The last year had been a whirlwind of success and validation, everything I'd ever worked for. Now it was all tainted by this conflict with Travis. My parents called that evening, their voices strained. "We just want this resolved," my mother pleaded. "We hate seeing you boys at odds." "Has Travis asked you to talk to me?" I questioned. A telling pause. "We're not taking sides," my father insisted. "But Mason, is there no room for compromise here? This situation is tearing our family apart." "He wants half, Dad. Half of everything I've built." "Not everything," my mother corrected gently. "Just the auction proceeds. Your expertise, your gallery, your reputation, those are still entirely yours." I ended the call promising to consider their perspective, but their intervention only deepened my sense of betrayal. It seemed everyone expected me to simply hand over millions because Travis suddenly regretted our transaction. November arrived, bringing with it the first anniversary of my discovery. Rather than celebrating, I found myself dreading the approaching Thanksgiving holiday. My parents suggested a neutral location, a restaurant rather than anyone's home, but Travis declined, saying he wouldn't be comfortable breaking bread while litigation was pending. Instead of family dinner, I spent Thanksgiving evening alone in my brownstone, surrounded by the antiques and artwork I'd acquired with my newfound wealth. The emptiness of the house seemed to mock my success. That weekend I received an unexpected visitor. Stephanie, Travis's wife, stood on my doorstep, looking uncomfortable. "May I come in?" she asked. "I think we should talk." I led her into my living room, offering coffee which she declined. "Travis doesn't know I'm here," she began, perching on the edge of an antique Chippendale chair. "He's become obsessed with this lawsuit. It's all he talks about, all he thinks about. He's not sleeping, he's distracted at work. I barely recognize him anymore." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said carefully. "But I don't see how that's my responsibility." Stephanie sighed. "It's not about responsibility, Mason. It's about what this is doing to all of us. To your parents. To your relationship with your brother. He's the one who initiated legal action," I reminded her. "Yes, and I've told him I think he's wrong," she admitted. "But he feels humiliated. By the media stories, by his colleagues' comments, by the way his financial mistakes have been publicized." "I never mentioned him by name in any interview," I protested. "It doesn't matter. Everyone knows. The rich banker who gave away $1 million heirloom for his dog to sleep on. People in his office make jokes. Clients have made comments. His pride is wounded." I hadn't considered this aspect. In my focus on building my new life, I'd forgotten how the story might be affecting Travis's reputation. "What are you suggesting?" I asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "I just know that money isn't worth destroying a family. Not even millions." After Stephanie left, I spent hours walking around Boston, trying to clear my head. The city was decorated for Christmas, families shopping together and enjoying the holiday lights. I found myself outside Travis's office building, looking up at the windows and wondering which one was his. Had I been unfair? The question haunted me. I had recognized the potential value of the blanket when no one else did. That was my expertise at work. But was there some truth to Travis's claim that I should have been more forthcoming? The deadline to respond to Travis's legal demand arrived. On my attorney's advice, I requested a 30-day extension, which his lawyer granted. Christmas came and went, with gift exchanges conducted through our parents as intermediaries. New Year's Eve found me at an exclusive industry party, surrounded by admirers of my success story, yet feeling utterly alone. In mid-January, just as I was preparing my formal response to Travis's demands, the situation escalated dramatically. A national news magazine published a feature article about valuable heirlooms discovered in ordinary homes. The Mary Two Rivers blanket was prominently featured, with details about how it had been used as a dog bed by an uninformed family member, before being recognized by expert antique dealer Mason Parker. Though the article didn't name Travis directly, it included enough details that anyone who knew us could identify him. The reporter had clearly done additional research, mentioning the subsequent family dispute over the proceeds, and pending litigation between siblings. Travis called me for the first time in months, his voice shaking with rage. "Did you talk to that reporter?" he demanded without preamble. "No, Travis, I didn't. I had nothing to do with that article." "Right," he scoffed. "Just a coincidence that it portrays you as the brilliant expert and me as the clueless idiot who nearly threw away millions. I'm sorry about the article," I said sincerely. "But I had no control over what they published." "Sure you didn't." His voice had a dangerous edge I'd never heard before. "Well, just so you know, my lawyer is adding defamation to our complaint. See you in court, brother." He hung up before I could respond. Within hours, my attorney received an amended complaint, now seeking punitive damages in addition to half the auction proceeds. The situation had spiraled beyond a simple disagreement about money. It had become a battle that threatened to permanently destroy our relationship. The following week, I received calls from cousins, aunts, uncles, and family friends, all expressing concern about the Parker brothers feud that was now becoming public knowledge. Some took Travis's side, suggesting I had a moral obligation to share the windfall from a family heirloom. Others supported me, pointing out that Travis had willingly sold the blanket and was just experiencing seller's remorse. What hurt most was the effect on our parents. My mother called in tears after being confronted by her bridge club about the boys' terrible fight. My father, normally stoic, admitted that he was losing sleep over the situation. "Your mother and I never thought we'd see our sons at war with each other," he said during one difficult phone call. "Especially not over money. We raised you both better than this." His disappointment cut deeper than Travis's accusations. I threw myself into work, expanding my gallery's offerings and pursuing new acquisitions. But the joy had gone out of it. Every successful purchase, every profitable sale, felt hollow without being able to share my achievements with the people I loved most. One evening in February, I found myself looking at real estate listings in other cities: New York, Chicago, San Francisco. Maybe a fresh start somewhere else would help. I could sell the gallery, transfer my client list to a colleague, and build something new where I wasn't known as one half of the Parker brothers feud. As I contemplated this drastic step, I received an unexpected email from Travis. "Mason, I've been thinking about our grandmother. Remember how she used to say that nothing was more important than family? That no possession was worth more than the people who shared your blood. I wonder what she would think of us now. I still believe I'm right about the blanket, but I hate what this is doing to Mom and Dad. To us. Maybe there's a better way forward than courtrooms and lawyers. If you're willing to talk, meet me at Walden Pond this Saturday at 10 a.m. Just you and me, like when we were kids." The location was significant. Our father had taken us fishing at Walden Pond throughout our childhood, just the three of us in a small rowboat. It was where we'd learned to bait hooks, to cast lines, to be patient. It was where Travis had taught me to skip stones, and where I'd helped him with his history homework. I stared at the email for a long time before responding with a simple, "I'll be there." That night, I dreamed of our grandmother. In the dream, she was sitting in her rocking chair, the Merry Two Rivers blanket across her lap. "Such a fuss over an old blanket," she said, shaking her head. "What's it worth, really?" I woke with her question echoing in my mind. What's it worth, really? Not the monetary value. I knew that all too well. But what was the blanket worth in terms of my relationship with my brother? With my family? With myself? Saturday dawned cold but clear. As I drove to Walden Pond, I realized I had no idea what I was going to say to Travis. I only knew that something had to change. The current path was destroying everything that mattered. Walden Pond was quiet that Saturday morning. A thin layer of ice rimmed the edges, and bare trees stood sentinel around the water. I spotted Travis at our old fishing spot, hands thrust deep in his coat pockets, breath forming clouds in the cold air. "You came," he said as I approached. "Of course I did." I stood beside him, both of us looking out over the water rather than at each other. This place brings back memories. Travis nodded. Remember when I fell through the ice trying to retrieve your fishing rod? Dad was furious. I laughed. But you were more worried about losing my birthday present than about catching pneumonia. That's what brothers do, Travis said quietly. Look out for each other. We fell silent, watching a lone duck glide across the pond's surface. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Travis finally continued. About Grandma, about the blanket, about us. This whole situation has gotten out of hand. It has, I agreed. My lawyer says we have a strong case, he said. But pursuing it means destroying our family. No amount of money is worth that. I turned to face him. What are you saying? Travis met my eyes for the first time. I'm dropping the lawsuit. I've already instructed my attorney to withdraw the complaint. Relief flooded through me, quickly followed by suspicion. Just like that? What's the catch? No catch, he sighed. Just recognition that I've been, well, not my best self. The money clouded my judgment. Made me forget what really matters. I wasn't ready to let him off so easily. You accused me of taking advantage of you. Of deliberately hiding information to cheat you. I was hurt, Travis admitted. And yes, embarrassed. The banker who gave away millions, people at work still bring it up. But that's my problem, not yours. You recognized the blanket's value when no one else did. That's your expertise. I can't fault you for that. His honesty disarmed me. I'd been prepared for negotiation, for demands, not for this straightforward acknowledgement. I appreciate that, I said cautiously. But where does this leave us? Travis picked up a flat stone and skipped it across the water, just as he'd taught me decades ago. That's up to us, isn't it? Can we move forward? Be brothers again? The question hung between us, weighted with everything that had happened over the past year. Could we simply set aside the hurt, the accusations, the legal threats? I want to, I said honestly. But it might not be that simple. Nothing worthwhile ever is, Travis replied. He hesitated, then added, I have a proposal. Not a demand, just an idea. I'm listening. What if we created something positive from all this? He suggested. A family foundation, perhaps. Using some of the proceeds from the blanket to preserve historical artifacts, support education about early American textiles. I considered the idea. A foundation? In Grandma's name, Travis continued. The Eleanor Parker Historical Preservation Foundation. You could lead the curatorial decisions with your expertise. I could handle the financial and administrative side. Working together, I mused. Exactly. The blanket came from our shared heritage. Maybe its legacy should be shared too, not through a lawsuit, but through something that honors where it came from and what it represents. The concept resonated with me in a way I hadn't expected. Over the past year, I'd focused entirely on what the blanket meant for my personal success, my vindication. I hadn't considered what it might mean for our family legacy. I like that idea, I admitted. But to be clear, this isn't about the money anymore? Travis shook his head. It's about finding a way forward that honors our grandmother, preserves our relationship, and creates something meaningful from this unusual situation we've found ourselves in. We spent the next hour walking around the pond, outlining ideas for the foundation. By the time we returned to our cars, we had the beginnings of a plan, and the fragile renewal of our brotherhood. The following months weren't always easy. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. We had moments of tension, instances where old hurts surfaced. But we were committed to moving forward. In April, on the first anniversary of the auction, we officially launched the Eleanor Parker Historical Preservation Foundation with a gala event at my gallery. I contributed 1/3 of my auction proceeds to establish the endowment, an amount Travis matched from his own savings, a gesture that went a long way toward healing our rift. Our parents' pride as they cut the ribbon was worth more than any auction price. Your grandmother would be so pleased, my mother whispered, tears in her eyes. Not about the money, but about seeing her boys working together again. The foundation quickly gained recognition in historical preservation circles. We established a scholarship program for students studying textile conservation, funded the restoration of historically significant pieces in danger of being lost, and created educational programs for schools. My gallery continued to thrive, my reputation now enhanced by the foundation's work. Travis remained in his banking career but found new satisfaction in applying his financial acumen to our charitable efforts. We established a tradition of monthly dinner meetings to discuss foundation business, which inevitably evolved into personal catching-up sessions as well. The $1 million dog blanket story evolved too. What had once been a point of contention became a family joke, a story we could finally laugh about together. Remember how Baxter sulked for weeks after losing his favorite bed? Travis would recount at family gatherings. He's sleeping on a custom-made orthopedic dog bed now, I'd remind him. Quite an upgrade from a Revolutionary War artifact. 1 year after establishing the foundation, we were invited to attend a special exhibition at the Smithsonian featuring the Mary Two Rivers blanket, now a centerpiece of their American textile collection. Standing before the display case with Travis and our parents, I felt a profound sense of completion. Amazing to think this was just Baxter's old blanket not too long ago, Travis murmured. Sometimes the most valuable things in our lives are right in front of us, I replied. We just need the wisdom to recognize them. I wasn't just talking about the blanket. Life has a way of teaching us its most important lessons through unexpected means. For me, that lesson came in the form of an old blanket that brought both fortune and nearly cost me my family. I learned that success means little without people to share it with, that expertise is valuable but so is humility, and that some things, like family bonds, are truly priceless. The blanket that once divided us now connects us to our past and to each other in ways we never imagined. Its threads, woven by Mary Two Rivers nearly 2.5 centuries ago, have become intertwined with the fabric of our family story. So what would I say to someone who finds themselves at a crossroads between wealth and relationships? Remember that the true value of any discovery isn't measured in dollars but in the wisdom it brings and the connections it fosters. Sometimes the real treasure isn't the object itself, but what it teaches us about what matters most. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Have you ever discovered something valuable in an unexpected place? How would you have handled the situation with my brother? Would you have started the foundation or made a different choice? Leave your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story. Thanks for listening, and remember, the most precious treasures are often hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone with the right perspective to recognize their true value.